Good morning, students. I hope you have already finished writing the question answers of chapter 7 from your poetry, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Today, we shall learn the next poem, The Patriot. A patriot is a person who vigorously supports his or her country and is prepared to defend it against enemies. So we have a poem here, The Patriot. It is a poem written by Robert Browning. Robert Browning was born in Italy in 1812. He was a famous poet of the Victorian age. The poem seems to have been the result of Browning's experience of the rise and fall of heroes in Italy's premature struggle to free herself from Austria. The patriot in the poem had heroic achievements a year ago, but just after a year he is arrested and is being led to the gallows. The Patriot is a dramatic monologue. Do you know what is a dramatic monologue? In a dramatic monologue, a single person who is not the poet utters the speech in a specific situation that makes up the whole of the poem. The poet makes his speech through the medium of an imagined character and achieves the same objectivity that characterizes a drama. The first person speaker in the poem is the mouthpiece of the poet, not the poet himself. The imagined character who speaks in the poem is a patriot who is being taken to the scaffold for reasons that are unknown to the reader. The speaker does not show any wounded pride but willingly accepts his fate. As you see on the screen, the poem has 6 5-line stanzas. The stanza can be seen as a reflection of different stages in the patriot's life. The first, second, and third stanza narrate the story of his heroic past, while the last 3 reflects his present unheroic state. Now let us understand what the poem is all about. In this poem, the patriot has been arrested and is being led to the gallows for his misdeeds. As he is being led, he recalls how just a year ago he was worshipped as a hero by the same people who are now treating him like a villain. But just after a year, he has fallen on evil days. A year ago, when he was welcomed, his paths were strewn with flowers, the church towers were decorated with flags, and huge crowd gathered to welcome him. The patriot finds a contrast of today's situation with the one a year ago. Now, a rope has been used to tie up his hands more tightly than needed on his back. The rope is so tight that it cuts both his hands. His forehead bleeds, as some people have hurled stones at him. He is now leaving the city as a hated criminal. He pins his hope on God's justice, seeing the irony of fate. He feels that God would reward him in heaven, while people have failed to recognize his service. God is the only shelter for those who are betrayed and deserted by their fellow human beings. Now let us try to understand the poem in detail. We shall begin with the first stanza. It was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway, the church spires flamed, such flags they had a year ago on this very day. Now let us understand the meanings of the difficult words. We have myrtle. It means a sweet smelling flower. Like mad means in great enthusiasm. Heave means breathe. Sway means rise and fall. Church spires means a tall pointed structure on the top of the church building. A year ago means something that happened 1 year back. Now let us see what the Patriot wants to say. The speaker of the poem is a patriot who narrates the story of his golden past. He remembers a day, year ago, when he was given a grand welcome on his arrival to the town. People had thrown roses and myrtle in his path. Let us see the third line. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway. Means the house roofs were so full of people that the roofs seemed to sway. Let us see the next line. The church spires flamed, such flags they had a year ago on this very day. The poet says the church spires were decorated with beautiful flags. Thus, the speaker received a grand welcome a year ago on the same day. Now let us see the second stanza. The air broke into a mist with bells. The old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. Had I said, good folk, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies. They had answered, and afterward what else? Now let us see the meaning. Broke into the mist with bells. Here bells means the church bells. Rocked means shook. Repels means something that is not attractive, say something hateful. Yonder here means that. What else? Here it means what else the patriot needed. So let us understand the meaning of this stanza. The air broke into a mist with bells. The old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. Here the second stanza is an extension or continuation of the first stanza. It tells us of the frenzy, that means the panic of the people at the arrival of the patriot. Bells are rung to announce his coming. The old walls of the building seemed to shake with the crowd and their loud cries. Now let us see the third line. Had I said, good folk, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies? They had answered, and afterward what else? Here it means the people were momentarily swayed by him to such an extent that even if he had asked for the son, they would have offered him the same. They would have asked him what else he desired, and would be ready to give him. Such was the enthusiasm that a people had a year ago. The Patriot appreciated the enthusiasm of the people. Now let us see the third stanza. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun to give it my loving friends to keep. Not man could do, have I left undone, and you see my harvest that I reap. This very day, now a year is run. Let us see the word meaning. Alack means alas. Leaped at the sun. It means tried to do something impossible. Here, the poet reminds us of Icarus, a Greek mythological figure who fell into the sea as he rose nearer to the sun and his wax melted. Note. Note means nothing. Harvest. It means reward. A year is run means a year has passed. Now let us see what does this stanza means. The speaker now regrets that he was a hero who leaped at the sun for his loving friends. Means he was the one who did something extraordinary for his people. Here the poet mentions Icarus, as I had mentioned earlier, was a Greek mythological figure for whom his father had given a wax wing. He was so overambitious that he rose nearer to the sun and his fall was very tragic. Like Icarus, the Patriot here was overambitious and hence he had a tragic downfall. Let us see the next line. Not man could do, have I left undone, and you see my harvest, what I reap. This very day, now a year is run. It was the speaker who went ahead to do every possible thing in public's best interest. He did his best. He did whatever he could do for his countrymen. But what reward did he receive? Is this the reward he is getting from the people? The speaker now feels dejected at his harvest. In a sad tone, the Patriot feels that people have forgotten all that he had done for them. Everything has changed for him in a year. I hope you have understood these three stanzas. As I told you in the beginning, this poem, the first three stanzas narrate the story of his heroic past. Thus we see in these three stanzas that the speaker of the poem is a patriot who received a grand reception from the public a year ago. His path was filled with roses and myrtle. The house roofs were crowded and the church spires were decorated with flags. The old walls of the building were rocked with the crowd. The public admired and honored him to such an extent that if he asked for the sun, he would have agreed. At the end, the tone changes. The speaker regrets that it was he who had done every possible thing for the public. and now he feels that everything has changed for him in a year. So now I would request you to go through these stanzas, understand it, and then try to answer the question of your workbook. You can solve the comprehension passages 1 and 2. So, till we come with the next class, stay safe and remain at home. Thank you.